kind enough to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I can't see, but call to order. Joanne, may I have a roll call, please?
Douglas Beatty, Kathy Buckley.
Here.
Michael Hagedorn, Ed Marin.
Here.
Christopher Michaud.
Here.
Crystal Palmer. Here. Nicole Pupor. Mark Sand.
Here.
Pauline Stone.
Here.
Grant Decker.
Here.
May it be resolved that the Superintendent of Schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the following agenda. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Pauline?
Second.
Mark, a second. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. We've set aside 10 minutes for public comment. If you would like to address the board, I request that you stand up, state your name. But before we start, we're going to have Mr. Marin give a quick overview of our public policy, or public comment policy.
All right. The basics are that we don't talk about people specifically by name. We try to keep that separate for confidentiality and covering everybody. Typical proper behavior, no obscene language, libel statements, threats, that kind of stuff. We're just responsible for being orderly behavior. That's about it.
Okay.
Hi, I can say my name. I'm Darlene McPherson-Burnham. I have been in the community I went to school at Beekmantown. And I am here because I'm concerned about the student council in the 5th grade level. I would like my daughter to participate. I have been trying to take the steps to have her join the
Can you not
activity.
A reference to a specific person?
We went through the correct steps per Mr. Mannix. We went through the activity advisors. We went to the administration level, and then we went to Mr. Mannix, and now I am here. I would like her to be on this committee. It was very helpful for my son to be on it last year, and I had been petitioning and speaking in behalf of several 5th graders who are have not been allowed to participate in the student council for some reason or another. And we would like to have them on the student council since it's a volunteer council. It gives the kids an excellent training tool for when they move up into other areas of the school so they can participate in other clubs and activities and feel welcome within the school. So I am here speaking on behalf of my daughter because I would like her to be on the student council.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Okay. Is this the same topic?
I'm going to talk about social and emotional well-being, which I believe was brought up at the September 10th board meeting, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. If you could state your name.
Yep. My name's Robert Burnham. I live at 393 Duquette Road. I'm not a lifelong resident of Beekmantown. I'm a newbie, and I've been treated like a newbie. Okay? Can I give a handout to the board?
How about, could you...
I can hold it up.
That would really actually be perfect.
I have handouts for anyone if they need a copy. So emotional and social well-being. How do those words make you feel? Now, imagine that you're a 9-year-old daughter or a 9-year-old child in 5th grade. No, let's say you're 2 9-year-old children in 5th grade. Okay, this is the message. 2 club advisors, 1 building administrator has conveyed to my daughter and her classmate. Okay? Both have been denied the opportunity to participate in the elementary student council. So according to the 2019-2020 Parent-Student Handbook, this is from page 12, the Beekmantown Elementary Student Council is a school group made up of students from 5th grade who volunteer their time to make BES the best school possible and help the community too. That's page 12, Student Handbook. So I'm here tonight to ask why 2 5th grade students at BES are continually being denied the right to participate in elementary student council. Per your own board policy 1400, formal complaints. My wife and I met, number 1, with student elementary council advisors. We then met with the school building administrator. This school building administrator told me that there was absolutely no educational.
Okay, we gotta be a little careful.
I'm not
with this
mentioning
one.
names.
I know, but be
I
just
did not mention any
choose-
names.
Just choose your words wisely.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Kathy, I've been doing this for a long time.
Okay.
Okay? So this school building administrator stated to my wife and I that there is absolutely no educational expectations or educational outcomes from elementary student council. Okay? She challenged me when I told her I would be happy to bring it to the board. She challenged me. She said, take it where you want to. So I am here. Instead of being the problem solver, simply inflames the situation even more. Okay? So the only reason that they state that these 2 5th graders, and I know there's others, but these 2 9-year-olds have been turned down was because their application was late. Despite numerous contradictions, I have a file full of emails, correspondences, where I can't get a straight answer from anybody. I then, when we were turned down by both the advisors and the building administrator, I took it to the superintendent of school. I filed a formal complaint via email as required by the board policy on Friday, November 8, 2019. Okay? The only correspondence I received back from the superintendent was that he was in an administrative team meeting today, a meeting with law enforcement regarding a local issue, a meeting with a principal, a construction meeting, a walkthrough of the building, as well as a 2.5-hour meeting with numerous law enforcement officials to help incorporate best practices into our crisis response plan. I will be reviewing the situation and your complaint, which includes 20 pages of documentation. Have a nice long weekend. So I'm not really sure why the detailed daily schedule was provided to me. A simple, I'm in receipt of your formal complaint, I'll review it, get back to you as soon as possible would have been sufficient. Instead, my feel on it was that because our superintendent is so busy, maybe the board should hire him some extra help, say $450 a day. I'm not really sure how seriously my complaints are being taken and how much attention he's willing to put and devote to this issue. Now granted, it's trivial, I understand that. When I talked to Mr. Mannix back in October, I said it never, ever should have gotten this far. This should have never gotten this far. We should not have to be here tonight arguing elementary student council. So, but regardless, my wife and I are here trying to resolve this problem one more time. And all we were asking for is the same thing we've asked for from day one. That my child and any other child that wants to be allowed to participate in this volunteer organization. This is where they learn civic responsibility. This is where they learn volunteerism. My child's being denied. You're not welcome. We don't want you. You don't matter. That's the message being conveyed to these children. Imagine you're a 9-year-old child sitting in, we'll say, an art room, 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 in the morning. All of our classmates get up. go to the student council meeting. She's left behind. She's not welcome. She's not wanted. She doesn't matter. I hope we can resolve this sooner than later. Okay? Christmas season is coming, holiday seasons are coming. We really want our daughter to be participating in this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to approach the board at this time? All right, seeing that there's no one. Next, we'll move on to presentations. I do not see Mr. Boris.
I can't email. I can't get any service.
How about,
So Bob might be available now, but if not, we could move to you, and Bob's definitely going to be available in 5 minutes. We could move on
do
to.
you think you could do your
Yeah,
list?
I can start.
Okay. We're gonna jump out of order. We're gonna have Mr. Marin do his update on NISBA conference and other issues with NISBA.
Right. Okay, so
Bring it up.
all right, so there's a couple of them. Well, just really quick. So last week or 2 weeks ago now, I was at the annual NISBA conference, of which at the end of the conference, I always have the annual meeting where we do vote on resolutions, right? And it's interesting because a lot of the resolutions that start there, that's the intent is that they go to lobbying efforts with NISBA, they go to legislation afterwards. As a matter of fact, just a couple of weeks ago, one of the ones that was pushed through by a district, which was a request that pilots be pushed back if they're not processed in a timely manner for a school district to adjust for their budget, that suddenly you're surprised with a pilot and you don't have the money because you already voted. That's a serious issue. So the law just came out that allows us to, or the law requires that new pilots that aren't in the budget yet, they get pushed to the next year. So that's great because it allows you to apply. So that's an example of one of many that get pushed through with legislation, which is where I think we should have a bigger participation with some of these resolutions. Anyway, just really quick, a lot of interest on mental health actually at the conference associated with changing some of the academics or improving academics to participate in mental health, whether all the way from general ed to special ed, all the same needing the same kind of support. So that was a big push. I would see that some of that's coming down the line for us. And then also a couple of months ago, I was at the roundtable for the commissioner, with several other board members, and the then interim commissioner and the regents. And I got some nice feedback from some local administrators. Thank you very much for some of the help. And I'll just give you a quick rundown on what the agenda was and what the interest is. So the Board of Regents seems like they want to have, she wants to have an impact on improving New York State education. Some of the big things that were covered were ransom. Luckily, we're kind of ahead of the curve on that with the IT, but there were people there at that table that were paying for ransom cybersecurity issues. So one of the big components that came out of that was that cybersecurity insurance is something that's prominent now in New York State. We see that that's going to become another budget item that we've talked about at audit committee, and we also foresee that within that budget, we're going to foresee more audits being required by the districts in order to get the cybersecurity insurance. Right, so that's something that we're going to have to anticipate further down the line. Let's see here. Red flag law and how that impacts administrators versus the superintendent with respect to children that might be at risk and having to request that the law enforcement be a part of that. That was a big conversation. About Child Victim Acts, data, what else? Vaccinations was another one. But the big one that was also talked about was graduation matters. And this is for further conversation. I will be at the next roundtable with the, I don't know who the commissioner is at this point, but and the regents. That's going to happen in the beginning of December. And the conversation there has to do with the Blue Ribbon Commission, which is about looking at the requirements for diplomas, and I think, Dan, you probably heard a little bit of that, if you want to step in at any time. And so there was this process being established by SED to get some feedback through agencies, everything from NICED to NISCUS through NISBA. I think we've had some conversation internally about trying to see how we can be a part of that, a little more from the grassroots effort. Right now, they're saying they're going to have feedback and some research analysis through stakeholders. That's not completely well defined.
They're doing a tour.
Right, but it seems like it would. So one of the things that I proposed at the table, and I've talked to Dan and Kathy a little bit about, and I've talked to BOCES, is that we try to be proactive, and because our administrators and our staff are kind of on the ground floor, we start getting some feedback on how all of this affects us and what you think is important for graduation beyond what's already established, and maybe we can start bringing it through if that's something the board's willing to participate in, right? So that we don't just wait for the people at the top to tell us what to do. Maybe we participate in the feedback process through our staff and help develop whatever regulations are coming down the line. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, or Dan, if you want to step in. And
Well, did somebody say something?
No.
One of the feedback mechanisms that the state actually does use, and I know that they do use it, is they have a 90, sometimes 60, sometimes 90-day comment period whenever they change a regulation, and they have a link to send emails, and a lot of times you might look at that and be like, sure, there's nobody there reading it. Actually, they really read that stuff, and it really is impactful to them. They're very open about that.
Yeah,
That's the way that they will go around and do tours and all that other stuff, but that is one way in which a local person or group could have impact.
That's a good point. So if the staff wants to, this is the time to do that. I mean, the big questions are, what do we want our children to know and to be able to do before they graduate? How do we want them to demonstrate that knowledge and skill? So those are the big ones. And
Well, the big fear from a lot of practitioners, superintendents, and maybe other groups, I don't know if it's a big fear for me or not, is there's a lot of thought that they want to do away with the Regents exams, which have been around since the 1800s. Just because it's been around a long time doesn't mean it's great, but for a long time that has been kind of a trademark of education in New York, and is something that other states point to as something that we do really well, is that exit exam, the Regents exam. So doing away with that is worrisome to some people. I say, I get on, I'm not so worried about the high school graduation stuff. I'm a lot more worried about what we do to third through eighth graders, and how much we test them, and how useful that information is, and how long they hoard it and they don't share it. So I'll stop there on my 3 through 8, but that's one of the big concerns for high school.
That actually came up at the round table as a question, because a couple of people wanted to make sure that the region chancellor knew that was something we preferred. So a lot of the conversation also evolved around, not separating general ed and special ed, and also having projects that can allow everyone in between to participate in graduation, capstone projects. So looking at other mechanisms that allow you to say, this person's productive in society, how are they going to graduate, and let the universities decide what of that is what they need.
Yeah, how do you showcase your learning, right?
Right, exactly.
Which is, and when the commissioner who just resigned was here, she stopped by Beekmantown for about half a day, and then we met with her as superintendents, I think over at BOCES, and one of the concerns we had was, we have all these new standards and all this learning is changing so much, but are we going to have the same type of assessments? So if we wants to change the way we teach and change the way we deliver education to kids, and we just talked about the New Visions program and how that is visionary and really good. If she wants to do things like that, should we still be using that baseline assessment? So it's a good argument. It's not saying I have an answer for you, but it's certainly the right argument. It's the right discussion to have.
Nice.
All right, then we should move on next to our super eval with Bob Hartz through teleconferencing.
So Gary's setting this up. We decided to use a new evaluation system last year. The board, we talked about that, and I think we showed some videos. And the process, it took Bob a lot longer to set it up than he would have thought. But I'm now in the process of logging in, finishing. I have two large areas to fill in, and then and the team is helping me. The administrative team is sending me some of the things that they've accomplished within our goals as evidence, and I'm submitting that, putting that in, and then once I hit submit, I can't touch it anymore, and it's then in your court. So Bob's going to talk about your process, and then how do you find help if you need help. But it's a pretty good system. It does curate everything pretty well. I like it, and it's pretty intuitive too.
We've been using it on the BOCES board. It's been pretty easy to use.
Yeah.
I'll turn it over to you, Bob.
Well, hey, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Can everybody hear me okay and see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. I don't anticipate this taking too long. I'm just going to give you the 10,000-foot view of what you'll see, point out the different support features and that we have within Super Eval. If you ever get stuck, within the program or need any questions answered, I'll show you where that is. And then, of course, when you're actually in doing the evaluation itself, you can. We have a 1-800-1844 number, email address, live chat. So we'll just go through all of that. But first and foremost, just wanted to thank you very much for your business and support of Super Eval. Love coming up to the Plattsburgh area. In fact, in my former life, I was the head baseball coach at the University of Rochester, and our starting catcher was Ryan Donahue from Beekmantown Central Schools. But I have a soft spot in my heart for the Eagles. And so that's just a small world, a little scenario. But in any event, what you're looking at, this is the supereval.com, okay? To log into the actual program, you would, just click in the login here, and that's where, you would get your own user ID and password to log in. Once you log in, this is what the screen looks like. So at the very top here, this is our demo district. At the top is Mr. Jeremy Johnson. He's a fictitious board president in a fictitious school district called Beekmantown Central School District. We're in the 2019-2020 school year. If you use Super Eval over and over throughout the years, it'll digitally archive the evaluation. So if you need to go back to last year's evaluation, you just do that with a drop down, or you can go back to however many years you've been using Super Eval. It'll default to, depending on which evaluation you're on. We also have the board self-evaluation through NISBA. We have the board evaluation instrument verbatim within Super Eval, so boards have not only used this for the superintendent, but for themselves. But we are evaluating the superintendent, which in this case is Dr. Elizabeth Smith. So in this, that would be where Dan's name would appear. So the only part of Super Eval that you really have to worry about as board members is step 3. Step 4 is where you would all come together and finalize the evaluation. But really step 3, that is the bulk of your responsibility as board members. Step 1 is really just the superintendent entering in the annual goals. Step 2 is the superintendent uploading his comments and reflections and evidence around those goals. And then once the superintendent submits his evaluation to the year-end review, each of you will receive an email notification that Dan has submitted the evaluation for a year-end evaluation, and now it's your turn to go in to take a look at what Dan did, and then go ahead and rate on the rubric as you see fit. So I'm just going to pull up again. Want to point out the help section here before jumping in, because I want to use the user manual to show what you're going to see when you first log in and go to start an evaluation. So in this help section, we have page tours. So when you click on page tour and you click on the various numbers at the bottom of the screen, it'll tell you what those icons do. Okay, and to get rid of the page view, you just hit this close button in the lower right-hand corner. We also have help videos, and then the user manuals. User manuals are very helpful. We have one for the board president as well as the board member. So I'm going to click on the board member one here, and I'm just going to bump this up just a little bit so you can see better. I'm going to scroll down, and the first thing when you log into Super Eval, you've gotten that email notification that Dan submitted his evaluation. You click into step 3. This is what you are going to see, is this green plus sign. Okay, so to begin your own evaluation, click the green plus next to your name in the evaluation column. So you're going to click on that green plus sign. The next thing you will see, and let me just bump this up just a little bit, is you have the choice between either starting the evaluation from scratch or starting with the evaluation with the superintendent's rubric responses pre-populated. This came out of our pilot. Board members were like, look, if I'm in 95% agreement with how Dan is doing, why do I have to start from scratch? So we give board members the choice. Either start with the superintendent's rubric responses pre-populated or start from scratch, okay? So let me go back to the live version now. And once you have started the evaluation, you do not have to continue in the evaluation until it's done. You can jump in and out. You can do this mobile on your phone, on your iPad. So they're really so you can stop and start as you see fit in what's most convenient for you. When you jump back into the evaluation, notice that the green plus sign has now become this blue square little icon. And so in this case, we are impersonating Mr. Jeremy Johnson. He's board president. So I'm going to click in, and actually before I do that, I just want to show one thing here. So for the board president, being the trusted agent of the process, the board president has this View Details button. So when you click on this View Details button, the board president can see how the evaluation is sort of flushing out. Where are the board members evaluating the superintendent? In this case, it's board members Ibarra, Jackson, and Moore. I think the superintendent is developing within this competency for information with relationship to the board under this domain. In this case, where the darker image is where the superintendent has self-rated him or herself. So in this case, the superintendent is Dr. Elizabeth Smith, and then board members Garcia and Davis think the superintendent is effective. And then in this case, we have one board member, the board president, thinks the superintendent is highly effective. So this is really just gives a snapshot view as to how the evaluation is flushing out. The board president can bring this up in executive session in front of all the board members just to start conversations and see if everybody's on the same page. You'll notice on the bottom there is a legend that will help explain what the different symbols are, as well as the icons of the different people, if you will, in the evaluation. So I just wanted to point that out. Having the evaluation online in a tool like this lends itself to offering these type of views. So I just wanted to point that out. So getting into the evaluation itself, again, once you've started the evaluation, you stop it, you go back in, that green plus sign now becomes this blue square. I'm going to click into that blue square. And so again, screen orientation here, just like, step in the beginning, we've got at the very top, Mr. Jeremy Johnson, fictitious board president, Shady Pines Central School District, 2019-2020 school year. The icons up here that you really have to worry about, again, are the help section and then this dashboard. If you click on this dashboard button icon, it gets you back to the 5 dashboard. All right. I'm going to click in here. You can also get back to the dashboard through this, what we call a breadcrumb trail in the upper left-hand corner. If you click on this dashboard link, that'll get you back to the what we call the dashboard or the main screen here. So let me just jump back in. So across the top, this is our demo district has the NISCUS rubric in there. You will not see these across the top because you are doing a goals-only approach. So you won't have to worry about relationship with the board, community relations, staff relationships, business and finance, and instructional leadership. The only thing you will see across the board, this whole gray area, will be annual goals. So once you click into annual goals, this is where, and in this case, it looks like the board member started the evaluation with the superintendent's, actually started from scratch. So as you scroll down, these are the different goals. And I know Dan has, I think there's, I want to say 27, 29 goals in the system. So in this instance, this is goal number 1, multimedia integration. Okay, the superintendent will create and implement a communication plan that will integrate multiple forms of media. So what you want to do is you want to scroll down, and what's nice about Super Eval is that all of the superintendent's feedback and comments are right in front of you. So this is where, you know, the reflections and comments are, okay? This is where the supporting evidence is. You take a look at the supporting evidence, the comments, you go back up, and then you simply click on whether you think the superintendent is effective, highly effective, developing however you see fit. And then you move on to the next goal. Okay, so in this instance, it's ground and maintenance evaluation. The superintendent will evaluate the building and grounds to assess the needed repairs, et cetera, et cetera. You go in, take a look at the feedback and comments, and then go ahead and rate on the rubric. Once you've done that, once you've rated on the rubric, you might want to explain why you've rated on the rubric, so you yourself have the ability to go into this section right here called My Reflections and Comments and say, you know what, I agree with the superintendent, and here's why. See below, or see attached. And then you yourself have the ability to upload supporting evidence. So to do that, if you know, for instance, if you saw Dan out in the community and you took a picture of Dan in the community, you took a selfie with Dan, you wanted to upload that to show that Dan is connecting with the community, you simply go into support evidence, you click on the add button, and then this is where you can click in this gray box to upload that particular picture. So you can do Excel files, Word documents, PowerPoints, pictures, videos. In this instance, you can add URLs. So if you wanted to reference board docs, Google Sheets, websites, you can certainly do that. And then you would just type in the URL. In fact, I brought up Beekmantown's web address. So what I would do is just copy that web address and paste it in. And once I've done that, I hit submit. You can give it a little description here. I've aligned it, to this goal. But what other goals? This is the rubric that we have loaded. But the other goals of Beekmantown Central School District would be below here. What other goals does perhaps this website relate to? And once you've done with that, you can click save. So the board, each of you would go through this process by going through each of the goals, taking a look at Dan's comments, reflections, supporting evidence, rating on the rubric, and then going on to the next goal. Any questions about that particular step? And again, this is really the only step that each of the board members have to worry about.
I have a quick question. It's Kathy.
Yes.
Let's
Hi,
say,
Kathy.
let's say you've gone through, you've reviewed it, you've made your decision, you hit save, and after you think about it, you decide, you know what, I actually think he's better or worse than what I put. So how do I change something I've already saved?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So at any point in time, you can go back in the process to make edits. So for instance, say we've marked this complete, right? And, Kathy, you've marked this complete as board president, as the trusted agent. You are choosing to move on to the next step in the evaluation process without having all the board members completing their individual evaluations. Do you wish to proceed to the next step? So you hit yes, okay? And now we're into step 4. Now, once we're into step 4, and I'll get to your question in a second, Kathy. Once we're into step 4, this is where, again, here's this data view again, but instead of each of the individual board members, you have the board average versus where the superintendent has self-rated him or herself. In some cases, the superintendent has self-rated him or herself higher. In other cases, it's lower. But what you're looking for are larger, more than 2 place values disparity. So in this one, board questions, okay? Answering board questions in a timely manner. There is the superintendent thinks he or she is developing. The board thinks he's highly effective here. So maybe that's an area of discussion. Where there's areas of agreement, you get a green thumbs up. So I just wanted to point that out. But let's say we're in the edit process. We go in, we take a look at the actual evaluation. We go in to edit the evaluation, okay? We can redact the names from the feedback comments. I'm going to go into the edit evaluation. And what's nice about, Super Eval is the fact that all of the comments and reflections have been rolled up and contextualized within each of those goals. So for this particular goal, Amanda Moore, this is board member Moore's comments. This is board members Jackson's comments, board members Dibera comments. And so throughout the discussion, as a board in step 4, you get together, you distill all of that information down. And you know what, Kathy, you were saying, you know what, after discussion, I want to go back and make a change. You can do that, okay? What you simply do is go back to the dashboard. See, let me go back to the dashboard. Okay, and there's this little blue arrow button right here. It says go back to the next step. So you click on that blue button. Warning, this will remove the consolidated evaluation along with any changes that may have been made to it. Would you like to continue by changing the status of this step to incomplete? Then you would just go ahead, hit mark yes, and then now you'll see that step 3 is now open again, where step 4 you cannot get into. Step 3 is open. You go back in to step 3, go back into your evaluation, find that particular goal that you wanted to change to developing or ineffective, and that really, and then that's how you would go back and edit that step. Did I answer your question?
Did that answer your question?
Yes. I thought he froze. Looking at me.
Okay. Okay, very good. So, you know what, I explained step 4, and really step 4 is all about going in and, again, distilling all of that information from each of the board members in step 3 and creating a final, clear, consolidated, concise year-end evaluation document that you hand over to Superintendent Mannix in step 5, where you have that year-end discussion. So again, this is where you would go in and if you're editing comments, let's just say all of these comments are saying the same thing. Then you can just scroll down and perhaps maybe even just backspace all of these comments out. Whoops, a bit too far here. Back all those out, and then write in summarize comments. I can type comments here, ... And you can also change the rating on the rubric. So let's just say it comes out developing, but the average is developing. But after taking a look at the comments and the supporting evidence, you want to change that. You can simply do so by just clicking on the rubric. So again, hopefully, this seems very intuitive and easy enough to navigate. But once you're done with step 4, really step 5, you click Mark Completed. And again, this is the board president. We say proposed final evaluation because that's exactly what it is. It's a proposed final evaluation in case in step 5, once you open up step 5, if there are any revisions to be made to the evaluation, as board president, Kathy, you can step it back to step 4, make those revisions, and then kick it back to step 5 for the superintendent's signature as well as your own signature to finalize the evaluation. Once you've done that and the evaluation is finalized, it automatically produces a FOIL document, and it'll digitally archive the evaluation in the system so that you can reference the previous year's evaluation just with the drop down like I showed when we first entered in. And so as part of the FOIL document, this is what is foilable. It is the rating at the domain level only. No competencies can be seen here. Rating at each of the goals. So in your case, you won't have these domains because you don't have a rubric in there. But what you will have is a rating at each of the annual goals and then an overall rating here. And then there is a public-facing comment by the board as one voice, and then a public-facing comment by the superintendent. So none of the feedback comments by individual board members are foilable. None of the feedback comments and evidence uploaded is foilable, by the superintendent or board. Those are the only things that, in the Beekmantown's instance, the only thing foilable would be, again, rating at the domain or the annual goal level only, an overall rating here, and then, again, a comment by the board is one voice and public-facing comment by the superintendent. And then this is where you would apply digital signatures. Let me, if I were to step back, let me show you real quick, and then we're just about wrapped up here. Elizabeth Smith is our superintendent in this case. So we're going to go to the 2019-2020 school year. It's in step 5. I'm going to go into step 5. I've read through the evaluation. I'm happy with it. It's okay to go. I hit sign. By signing electronically, you confirm that you and the board have discussed this evaluation. However, it does not necessarily denote an agreement with the final evaluation. Would you like to continue and sign? So, yes, I agree, or you can cancel and then go back and make revisions or whatever the case may be. But really, that is super eval. And again, I would highly recommend the help section with the page tours, the help videos, the user manuals. If you need to contact somebody and talk to a real life person, we have a 1-844 number. We have a support email that you can also use, and then a live chat during work hours in the lower right-hand corner. You can just utilize that if you have any questions that you might have while you're doing the evaluation.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have any questions?
Any other questions at all?
No.
Not until we
Okay.
start.
All right. Well, thank you, folks, for your time this evening, and thanks again for the support. And go Eagles.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thanks, Bob.
All right. So, I guess we will. I will have to say we will meet with Mr. Boulders at another time. Moving on to reports. First, we have reports from Superintendent of Schools, Daniel Mannix.
Okay, so a few more items than normal, but wanted to just report back to you on an exercise that the administrative team and I did, along with a lot of other outside agencies. was about a 2.5-hour exercise on Friday. It's called the tabletop exercise. It's the first one that we've ever engaged in here at Beekmantown. I thought it was really productive. I was really happy with everybody's participation. And I think we learned a lot. I think we felt comfortable going in, but we always try to learn from whatever we're doing. So joining us, we had 3 members of the New York State Police. We had 2 members from 911. There's actually some other name for it, but the 911 call center. Clinton County Sheriff's Department had 2 or 3 members. They had 3 members there. CVS had their health and safety organizer Jeff Sisson there, as well as admin, the whole admin team, and Jim from the bus garage. Dan Noonan from Buildings and Grounds was going to be there, but he was on vacation. So what we did was I basically built a scenario. I looked at some other tabletop exercises. Peru had done this before. They shared with me what they have done. And we created a scenario and then just kind of started that conversation with the administrative team and went through, and our scenario was evacuation. So if we had to evacuate the building, what would we do and what were the steps? And it was really good to have all those people there because we think, we have this pretty nice plan, but they actually go through these scenarios all the time, sometimes in real life and sometimes just pretending, and they told us some of their war stories and then some of the best practices, and I think we learned a lot. So I just wanted to share with you guys. I thought we were in a good position. We're in a better position now for sure. Also on Friday we instituted, I think we were the first in the county to institute the red flag law, which is a new law. I think the board's familiar with it, but that's a law where if you're having an issue with a family or an individual, the school district can petition to have the guns removed. And before it was kind of like an agreement, or actually before, a lot of times the sheriff's department or state police wanted you to press charges to get the guns removed. And now there's this new mechanism that we're utilizing that doesn't necessarily give somebody a criminal record, but may remove law, or may remove guns and help keep everybody safe. There's a number of reasons why you can utilize that law, and I'm really happy with. Essentially, it was Principal Bazzaio was going through that with myself. We have a meeting on Thursday, and we'll see if we can continue with that process. But it was worth the effort for sure. Also, during this second half of the meeting and the second part of the day on Friday, we discussed a really important screener, and we're looking at instituting, and it's in our goals. We've done a lot of work on this. We've had a lot of discussion. A social emotional health screener, so that we can begin to determine where are all of our students from the social emotional health well-being. If you could kind of quantify it, how are our kids doing, and what kids are showing signs, or what kids may need extra supports. So it's kind of cutting edge. It's something the state education department wants us to engage in. It's something we put in our goals 2 years ago before the state said that. One of the things we're really working on and trying to wrap our hands around is how do we utilize any information we do receive, and how do we keep that confidential? So I wanted you to know we're working on that, working hard on that. Really good discussion. So something will be coming your way, and that's something we'll have more discussion on. You can have that discussion now, or set up some time later, because we're not adopting something today. Bear with me. I think tomorrow or the next day, we actually have our third or fourth time when a student at Beekmantown is going to walk over to our office and have a telemed conference with a practitioner. So they're going to, a nurse is going to come here with another individual, and they'll engage with a medical practitioner via teleconference and maybe receive a prescription or whatever they may need through that exchange. So we talked about that a few years ago. That's now happening. I'm excited about that. And then the beautiful thing is the kid just goes right back into school, and they have just about everything they need. Some news that's going to be important over the coming months as we build our budget for next year. I would say, if I'm looking, and I'm totally predicting, but I know with the numbers have been in health insurance, I think we're still looking at record highs for our usage in health insurance. Although we did just switch, we didn't switch plans, we switched administrators, which should have a positive financial impact. But I still would think that we're going to be looking at somewhere between a 10 to 13% increase in health insurance, which is a really, really, really big number for us. On top of that, really shocked on, I think it was Thursday at a meeting, to find out that our teacher retirement rates and our employee retirement rates, our TRS and our ERS rates, are actually increasing. And Jen and I were anticipating, based on all the feedback we were getting from other state reports, that they were going to be decreasing a little bit, which is, that's a big number too, so a little bit can go a long way, but they're going to be increasing somewhat significantly, so that's another just place where we've got to find money. So that was concerning. And then our tax cap number, right now everybody considers it the 2% tax cap. That's how we talk about it in the media. But since I've been the superintendent, I think we've had the 2% or higher maybe 2 or 3 times. So this year it looks like, without any exclusions, without all the other math that needs to go into this, the baseline number is 1.57% increase, which is nice from a taxpayer standpoint. But sometimes that's difficult. Sometimes that's difficult on the education side. But we do our best. We've never had to go over the tax cap. We'll do our best. But those are a lot of kind of rough factors that we became aware of just at the tail end of this past week. And the only thing that caught us by surprise wasn't how we were tracking them, but all of a sudden it just kind of got turned on its head. I guess, is that what you were thinking, Jen?
I was shocked that TRS and ERS went up as much as they did. Up. At their estimate, anyway.
Yeah.
So
does that affect the next budget that we're already voted for, or how are we going? How does that impact our budget program?
So the way it's going to impact us is we're going to go in needing this much for health insurance, and this much for TRS, and this much for ERS, right? This much for raises, and we're going to have the state's going to give us whatever much, and then our local we can raise this much from our local taxpayer too, and then we've got to balance those.
What I'm getting at, it doesn't affect our current budget for this year, right?
Not for this year.
no, it's next year. It's next year. These are numbers for next year.
That's exactly what I'm asking.
Okay.
And just some feedback on that conversation about the tax cap. At least I've received a lot of feedback. People are concerned that they're not concerned about the percent tax cap, that how it's been raised. They're okay with that, but because in the communities the assessments have gone up significantly, that it's not the tax cap that's the problem, it's the tax cap imposed on the already growing assessments. So I wouldn't be surprised if you guys started hearing some significant backlash and concerns from the community because of that. So it's not just the tax cap, it's the assessments.
Sure.
That's right. Historically, assessments and our levy or our tax rate often get confused. They think it's us taking more when really it's their assessment has gone up.
Last two items. Sarah and I, we've known for a while. I think Gary Lambert and I went through some meetings a while back where one of our vendors had a lot of safety and security mechanisms, which we adopted, but one of which was they were in beta on a vaping detector. This is back when vaping was really considered bad, but people weren't dying of vaping or weren't having lung transplants. I saw today somebody had a lung transplant because of vaping. So and we've had kids locally, young people in ICU with vaping issues. So it's a real serious public health concern. The laws haven't really caught up with that. They're just beginning to scratch the surface. But we do have vape detectors now, and we are looking at purchasing a few vape detectors. And actually, I know I had a good conversation with Grant at one point and a couple other high school students on the issue of vaping. We know it's an issue here. We know it's an issue across the country. We're not we're not blind to that. So
So those only work if the vape's being used.
right, yeah, there's no right.
Are you saying it's a problem on campus, like bathrooms, locker rooms, hidden areas?
Yeah, I would say. Well, no, so this is the thing; it's not hidden. My wife's a teacher at Saranac, and they had a presentation in front of the whole faculty about how these vape things are they look like a thumb drive. They can look like this pen. You don't see it in front of you. So during the presentation, the presenter actually vaped, and nobody knew it. Nobody knew it.
Because it
Right.
looks just like.
Right? That doesn't surprise you, does it?
No.
No, right. So it's not like smoking in the bathroom. But there are people generally don't want to probably do it in the classroom, but they may be doing it in the classroom, they may be doing it in the hallway, but they may be doing it in certain bathrooms or certain areas as well. But they're very expensive. We hear that the technology is somewhat useful. So
What is the technology sensing?
changing the
emission?
environment, in addition, changing the environment. It does catch vape and a couple other things.
So has there been any disciplinary actions this school year?
Oh, yeah. So we've actually raised the.
Yes.
Yeah, we've seen some.
Yeah, I saw them on that.
So yes.
So you've had students that it's not just, there's not the concern that it's happening, it's happening in the
We
school.
know it's happening. We know we just can't catch it.
Mhm.
Hence, it may be a detector. When we do, I say we can't catch it. We do catch it, and people do get in trouble from it. But I mean, my concern isn't trying to catch them all and police them all. My concern is they might die from this. They may be in the hospital.
Complications.
Right. One of the nice things that we do is there's a restorative practice. I mean, we do want them. We can do a little bit more a presentation on this if you want, but we have the kids go through some steps so they not just understand. Oh gosh, I have a pretty significant penalty here, but what are the health risks? What's happening? What could happen to me as an individual or my friend if I'm sharing this? What could happen to my brother, sister, my cousin who goes to school here as well. So we have that. And it's kind of a restorative practice.
And so, I'm sorry to ask.
No,
that,
go ahead.
So there's educational pieces. So as like a student, do you feel like that we have warned the student body at like the
Like that there are punishments.
Well, no, just sure, punishments, but also that the hazards to your health and.
Yeah, people know them.
Okay, great.
But they may
That's
not
not
be
going to
the-
stop a lot of people, but they know them.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll lean on the student body to help us, know how to attack this issue, and I do appreciate that. I'm proud of the work that our current administration is doing and our past administration is doing. We actually reached out to law enforcement a couple years ago, but at that point it was like if they had a parallel to smoking. And there's not a lot you can do when you catch somebody for smoking cigarettes. But we're on it. I want to share that with you. I think it's a step. It won't solve the problem. And the last one is super eval. So that was a nice presentation. I'm going to be finishing that up. Hopefully, I'm going to say within 10 days, and then I'll turn it over essentially to you, and then you go through and you do begin the process. And since this is our first time, we'll just take our time and go through it. And I think next year will be faster. Okay? And we can make changes next year too. So there's a lot there. That's what I have.
All right. Jen Parliament, our business manager, do you have anything else that you would like to add to this report?
There was one thing I just wanted to mention. The cafeteria, I know we talked about the paper trays. We did get the paper trays, but and some of the other paper products, but the trays are made with a wheat product.
Uh-oh.
So now we have to find out if we can use them for the gluten-free kids. So Roxy is working on that. Once we have that answer, we'll be able to choose the day and pick it, and we're going to try and work with the student body and faculties to get some feedback on that. So that's the update on the cafeteria.
It's never easy.
It's never easy. Yeah.
So that's why I didn't see those.
That's why you didn't see it. Yeah, we're working on getting the answer. We just want to make sure that they're safe for the gluten.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Our next report is ex officio student board member Grant Decker.
All right, so we'll start with Cumberland Head. So students had a pretty busy October. There was an Eagle Pride Assembly to honor students that were nominated for the Wall of Pride, and proud students were in the audience. Proud parents were in the audience to watch the child receive the award. And the assembly reminded students of the 4 Bs and also taught Halloween safety for that Wednesday night. November's EP Assembly, Eagle Pride Assembly, will center on the top 20 concept of helping others when they're below the line. As the motivational speaker, I think, a while ago. Grades pre-K through 12 have their Halloween walk. Students gathered in the gymnasium and walked a lap around as several parents were in attendance to take pictures. Teachers were all dressed up in creative costumes, and a group of kindergarten teachers performed a dance to the popular Baby Shark song. Pre-K 3 had a special staycation field trip for Halloween. Teachers made arrangements for a pumpkin patch to be set up in the yard, and then the 3-year-olds were able to walk around the patch and pick out pumpkins for themselves. CVES School Improvement Specialist Amanda Zullo spent 2 days at Cumberland Head working with teachers to analyze the 3 through 5 New York State testing data. Mrs. Zullo looked at testing trends since 2016 and pinpointed for teachers the standards that appear often in a lot of state exams, and the standards students achieve well in, as well as the standards that should be reinforced more often. Teachers had time to collaborate and create instructional goals based on the data that was compiled. And there's a lot of positive feedback, and teachers look forward to continuing with that. And then they're looking forward to the district-wide mega concert on November 14th. Mrs. Yetto's chorus and band students have been busy preparing for that big event, and they're ready to showcase their talents. Next is middle school. So teachers worked again with Amanda Zullo from CVES to analyze data from the state assessments and create plans for the state tests. The Assemblyman Billy Jones spoke to Team Ascent students about Veterans Day. Counselors have been pushing into advisories, facilitating lessons on the top 20 concept of below and above the line. And then middle school had its first Eagle Pride Assembly, and this time was used to recognize students who exemplified one of the success traits in Eagle Pride, and they had over 20 family members attend. Team Summit students are prepping for their exhibition night, which will be on November 20th. Students will be presenting their ideas for how to shape a better future. And the band and chorus students will be participating in that mega concert on November 14th. And CFES fellows are providing peer mentor training for over 30 students this month.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is the mega concert in the gym again? No? Nobody know?
Yes.
Mega Concert's a great night. It's the second year it's been back. So.
Yeah, so is that new?
Yeah, so it's not. It was here when my daughter went to school, and it went away maybe around 2008 or so, and then last year was the first time it came back. It's a wonderful, wonderful night.
So perfectly like skipped me.
It's from they moved from immediately one group to the next. So it's
Yeah, it's cool.
So they're all in one place.
Yeah.
Right, everybody's in one place,
you just
nonstop.
get to turn
That's
your
nice.
attention
Yeah.
to
Okay. It's not like 3 different schools.
No.
That's great. Okay. So now the high school. First quarter just ended and final grades have been submitted. So the high school's focus has been on college exposure recently, and so they've had college representatives from Sergeant Harris from the U.S. military, Clinton Community College, Clarkson University, the National Guard, SUNY Plattsburgh, Vermont Air Guard, RAMP, which is Ready, Able, Marketable, and Proven, and Geneseo College. And the high school also participated in College Application Week, where teachers shared stories of their college experiences. And there was a College Apparel Day, and students had access to individual support during ELT time, which is like the other half of lunch periods, to work on college applications and financial assistance with counselors. And this week was a success because a lot of students really took advantage of it to fill out like the Common App in their financial info. And then in an effort to provide, in an effort to provide added services to students struggling socially and emotionally, 38 of our upperclassmen peer connectors participated in a mentorship training administered by College for Every student reps, and the peer connectors will be providing positive interaction social group sessions multiple times each week during lunches to help students feel more accepted by their peers. So they'll also be working with new students to ensure a smooth assimilation into Beekmantown High School. And then students also participated in several off-campus opportunities, so like trips. So the world languages and English students attended a Montreal museum tour. Juniors and seniors attended Plattsburgh State to get a feel for the college experience. The advanced biology students collaborated in a college science lab at Plattsburgh State. The computer science and Beak Squad members attended a cybersecurity conference at Plattsburgh State. The agricultural students attended the National Future Farmers Association convention and exposition. Students had the opportunity to tour industry business on the way to there, and then experience nationals with 55,000 plus FFA students from across the United States. And that was a once in a lifetime experience for all the agriculture students. These kind of like large scale meetings of FFA brought in the scope of students, and they help them provide what they want, help them decide what they want to do. So the advanced placement exams have been ordered. 98 students this year will be participating in some type of advanced placement exam, which will take place in the spring. And all 98 students now have the opportunity to receive college coursework credit through AP. And that'll save them money and prepare them for positive college success.
Excellent. Thank you.
I have one comment real quick. I was walking through the high school and I noticed the teachers had on their doors what college they went to. I thought that was a really nice touch. Helps the students relate.
We want to turn those into flags. It's first step.
All right. Moving on to committee reports. Thank you, Grant. I just want to bring to the attention to all that safety committee did meet, but we don't really provide a safety committee report. They work on safety, so if we tell everyone how we keep our students safe, those who would want to harm our students know what we're doing. So safety committee does not put forward a report, but they do meet. So I just want to bring it to your attention. All right. The next is audit committee. We did meet with Mr. Bulrus, Michael Bulrus from Bulrus Wood and CPAs to discuss our audit draft report. I'm not going to get into the weeds of it, but I will say overall that his firm has an unmodified opinion of the financial statements, and he wanted to let us know that that's a good thing. So another reason to be proud of us again. Also, audit committee reviewed and discussed the. Before I leave Mr. Bowles, we will have him come back at another meeting. We're not really quite sure why he's not here, but I'm going to guess it was the weather. So, audit committee reviewed and discussed the August 2019 financial reports. Also, we discussed our summer food service program. We also discussed grants, carryover funds, and football and hockey equipment reconditioning. Also, our next audit meeting will be Monday. Oh, no. Not Monday, October 21st. Our next meeting will be announced. They have one date.
Thursday, November 21st. Yeah. Thursday, November 21st.
Oh, yeah. So it'll be Thursday, November 22nd. 21st. Thank you, Joy. All right.
The operations meeting very soon. 20th. Wednesday the 20th. Yep.
Yeah. And negotiations too.
All right.
We're busy.
All right. Moving on. May it be resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the following minutes. It should be on. Oh, yeah. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Mike? Second?
Second.
Mark? Any questions or discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. May be resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education to approve the CPSE, CSE, and 504 recommendations dated 11/12/2019. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Crystal? Second. Mike? Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. May be resolved as the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education that the following resolutions on this consent agenda, resignations and appointments, be and are hereby approved. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Pauline, second.
I'll second.
Mike? Any questions or discussion?
I just have a question.
Sure.
For under appointments for the school attorneys, I just wanted to.
Sure. Can you just bring us
Subject J,
J.
7 out of
Yeah.
17.
Sure.
I just want to clarify this is in addition to existing council.
Yes.
And I see there's an attachment for one of the attorneys. Will there be additional supporting attachment, or is there already an agreement with the second
Okay.
firm that's listed?
So your second question I can answer.
Yep.
I'm going to get back to you on that because I don't have a good answer for you.
Okay. Yep.
The first point is, yes, these are additional attorneys, and what happened was we had a really strong attorney who handled all of our PINs applications at the courthouse, and he's moved away from that practice. So we asked other people who's really good at that, and we received these two names.
Okay.
Instead of saying, well, let's just pick one, we're going to pick them both and just see how they do. If they both do great, and we have two. If we like one better than the other, we'll move towards that one. That's kind of where the way the board likes to. A few years ago, more than a few years ago, the board wanted to start specializing and find attorneys that were kind of in their wheelhouse and certain. So we lost that attorney, somebody who just handled PINs for us. But now hopefully we have two here that is in their wheelhouse. So I'm going to get back to you on the supporting evidence for.
Yeah, I just saw there was one. And
Yes.
Can I,
Thank you.
Crystal, when I first started a number of years ago, we had one attorney handle everything. And that's the way it was done for years and years.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
Mr. Mannix suggested we do it differently, and it really does seem to make sense to find the right attorney for the right job.
Sure.
Yeah.
Everyone's so subspecialized in the best practices. Yep. Okay, thanks.
If you asked about the agreement,
Mhm.
it's on the board for.
One of them is.
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
wondering, I'm assuming
One or
it would
two.
be similar
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
Inslee and.
Yeah, the engagement agreements are very, very similar,
Yep.
and we'll make sure that it's
Okay.
brought to you.
Thank
And
you.
I should point out that, I sit here and answer these questions, but the people who handle that are usually the administrators and usually Mr. Pepe and maybe our assistant superintendent. And they reached out and they found those two that we think are really pretty good in the area. So,
Great.
thanks.
Thanks.
Any more questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. May it be resolved that the superintendent of schools recommends to the Board of Education that the following resolutions on this consent agenda: RTI Plan, Data Team Handbook, 2019-2020 School Calendar, 2020-2021 Budget Calendar, be and are hereby approved. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Thank you, Mark. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions or discussion?
I have a quick question on data team, just for clarification. One of the changes saw that a change in tier should not occur following one round of progress monitoring. Anybody have any education for me on that and why the benefits thereof?
What are the benefits to keep them in a tier?
Well, what was the reason for changing it? Why wasn't it before that way? Pros and cons of it.
Can you just repeat it one more time?
Okay, so this was in the progress monitoring committee component. The change was that change in tiers should not occur following one round of progress monitoring. So I'm assuming that before it was available to do so.
So I don't think that would have been the best practice to move after one score. I'm going back now to the original RTI plan. We talked about numerous data points to move into a particular area. But why don't I? Who wants? I know we have a lot of people that can handle this question really well.
We talked about 16 weeks for an RTI intervention. So we do an intervention. So we think a kid needs maybe some extra services in their classroom, extra time on tests, separate location. We can try that accommodation for that 16-week period before we move that student to the next tier. But it gives us the ability to be able to intervene more successfully with those students throughout that process, so that we can, move to the next tier once we need. And if you look at tier 1, it's not so individualized. You get to tier 2, tier 3. Tier 3 is one-on-one type, intervention for students. So that kind of looks at the time frame of what we look at.
So you're looking for more consistency before you move them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we get a better track record, really.
Yeah.
And it also helps that.
Hold on.
Okay. It also helps that the tier 2 or tier 3 level, you actually have to change up your intervention. You can't keep trying the same thing and saying it's not working, right? So you have to switch interventions and collect more data points and change your instruction to be reflective of the child's needs. So it kind of slows it down a little bit and makes us kind of dive deeper into their instructional need.
And again, to give credit where credit's due, the team did a really good job this summer trying to find a few more instruments to see if kids aren't responding, RTI response to interventions, right? If they're not responding to this one intervention, we needed to have a few more options before let's just give them more one-on-one time or pull them out more. Let's try a different instrument. So we found a couple of different instruments and trained staff on it. Overall, it's definitely where you want to be.
Any additional questions, comments?
Can I just bring up, did everybody see that? I think I put in an email or an update why we changed the calendar. The calendar's changed because the state won't. Previously, you could have a whole day for parent-teacher conferences, and the state would count that, and now they won't count that. So then we go to 2 half days. You have to have kids in session for it to count. So we go 2 half days, and then we'll do. It's in the contract. We've negotiated this before, but we can't use. There's 4 options in the contract. We can't use one of them anymore. It won't count as a day for state aid.
It will be interesting to see on the second and third of the year what our participation is, because that's right at the end of the week.
Second, at the beginning of the week?
Yeah, January, because the first
January.
is on Wednesday, right? So Thursday and Friday, second and third.
Gotta do what we gotta do.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, Ed. Don't have a choice there.
Just observation.
All right, any more questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes. May it be resolved that the Superintendent of Schools recommends to the Board of Education that the following resolutions on this consent agenda: financial reports, transfers, donations, grant acceptance, construction management contract, tax collector's report, tax certs, temporary on-call rates, and part-time rates be and are hereby approved. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. Question or discussion?
Yeah, just one thing, retired typist. I know the city pays $16, almost $17 an hour, and we pay $12. I don't know if they're hard to get here. I know they're very hard to get substitutes in the city. I'm one, that's why I know, and they're very hard to get. So I didn't know if the rate, it's not. Outside the city, I get close to $17 an hour compared to $12 here. So,
all those are hard to staff, all those positions, and that's one of the reasons why we're increasing the pay. Thank you for bringing that up, Pauline. The other, another strategy we're going to use is we are going to have a substitute our part-time. I'm not, no. Well, we might have a floater or two, but for lack of a better term, right now, just called a fair, where you advertise, hey, who's interested in part-time work, who's interested in subbing, and then you have you'll have Jim Chauvin from transportation, and Roxy and myself and the administrators and everybody there, letting people know all the different opportunities you have. Because if you wanted to work every single day at Beekmantown, we would probably be able to fill that need, and be able to do that. So there's a good opportunity here. The money is fairly good, but the things we all see, I think, out in the public are, if you want a job, you can probably find a job right now. So it's hard to staff these.
Any other questions or discussion? Joanne, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Douglas Beebe, Kathy Buckley,
Yes.
Michael Hagedorn,
Yes.
Ed Marin,
Yes.
Christopher Michaud,
Yes.
Crystal Palmer,
Yes.
Nicole Pupor, Mark Sand,
Yes.
Pauline Stone.
yes.
It appears that the resolution passes. Additional items to discuss. District-wide safety plan.
Oh, the different district-wide safety plan is out. I think it's posted on our website. Mr. Lambert, is it posted on our website? Do you know?
It's on our website under district resources and forms, just right under the main homepage.
Thanks. So we modified the district safety plan. We added to the district safety plan, so now we have to put it out for public comment, and we do that for 30 days, and at the next board meeting, probably at the next board meeting, depending on whether it's 30 days away or not, we will adopt that and then send that into the state. So the district-wide plan is kind of nebulous because it's out for public comment. You don't share everything. But the building-wide plans, they dive right down into how they're going to keep everybody safe and secure. So ours is kind of global. Theirs is more specific. Joanne is pointing to something, and I don't have my glasses on. Oh, so the public hearing is going to be on that 12/10 day at 5:45. And yeah, part of it is you allow for comment, but then also people can show up in person and make a comment on the plan and give you something to think about, which we welcome.
So sorry, just point of clarification. They can make a comment on the district website about the plan. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
And
yes.
that information would be
Yes,
brought to
there
the
is.
board meeting.
Sorry, there is on the form that Joanne provided, there is a cover page to it with an email address attached to it, so that any comments made can be directed to that.
So I wasn't thinking about bringing the comments to the board meeting.
Okay.
But that's not. I just wasn't thinking it. I'm not saying we're not going to do that. So if we receive any, why don't I just see if it's simple, something simple? So if it's just something simple and benign, I'll just answer it.
Put it in the board.
I'll put it in the forum. I guess anything we receive, we'll put it. It's good. I didn't think of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, not on that.
All right, we've set aside 10 minutes for public comment. If you would like to address the board at this time, please step forward. Seeing that we have no one at this time, we will be moving forward. All right, we are having the executive session this evening, so we are going to go ahead. What's up?
I was just going to mention one of the reasons why would be collective bargaining.
Oh,
I was going to ask what it is.
okay, I'm not there yet. But
Okay,
I
sorry.
will add that in there. All right. So we need to appoint a clerk pro tem. It may be resolved that the Board of Education appoint Ed as the clerk pro tem for this meeting. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Thank you, Crystal.
I'll
Second?
second.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions or discussion?
No.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Noes, abstains, resolution passes. All right. We will be entering into executive session, so may it be resolved that the Board of Education enter into executive session to discuss, to discuss a particular person or persons, collective bargaining, and pending legal issues.
Just for point of clarity, the collective bargaining, I'd like you to say what unit, and that would be our support staff unit.
Support staff unit. So collective bargaining with our support staff unit
Employment history of a particular person.
and the employment history of a particular person or persons. All right, may I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Thank you, Mark. Mike?
Yep.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mark. I'm sorry. Question or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstains? Resolution passes.
There won't be any action after this, so.
And there will not be any action after this.